This is Ralph Nader. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney are the most impeachable president and vice president in the history of the United States. The Constitution of the United States structures our democracy within the rule of law. Democratic Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, Senator Barack Obama, and their Republican associates are seriously subverting the rule of law by blocking the impeachment of George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Bill Clinton must be shaking his head in wonderment. High crimes and misdemeanors are what get a president impeached. That's in Article 2, Section 4 of our Constitution. Let's consider the case of Mr. Bush and Mr. Cheney. High crimes and misdemeanor number 1, the criminal war, invasion, occupation of Iraq in violation of our Constitution, federal statutes, and international treaties that our country belongs to. The second is systemic torture, condoned at the top of our government. That even violates the U.S. Army Field Manual, as well as FBI procedures. High crimes and misdemeanor number 3, the arrest and imprisonment of thousands without charges, denying habeas corpus, the fundamental requirement for a restraining power to show why the liberty of a person is being restrained. High crimes and misdemeanor number 4, spying on millions of Americans without a judicial warrant. This one violates the FISA Act, which provides for a 5-year jail term. High crimes and misdemeanor number 5 are all those signing statements that George W. Bush declared when he signed one bill after another from Congress, saying that it would be up to him to decide whether or not to obey the law. I guess one could call him King George IV. The American Bar Association, the largest bar association in the world, quite conservative, has sent 3 major reports to President George W. Bush outlining his serious violations of provisions in our Constitution. I stood in front of the White House for 45 minutes a few weeks ago and declared the reasons for the impeachment or resignation or subsequent prosecution of Bush and Cheney for the 5 categories of high crimes and misdemeanors. If we allow rampant recidivist criminal activity in the White House, as Speaker Pelosi, Senators Barack Obama, and John McCain have done week after week, month after month, that'll simply set the stage for future presidents to think that they, too, can break the law with impunity and run our civil liberties, our civil rights, our safety, our freedoms, our status before the world into the ground. I'm Ralph Nader.
Now look, part of the reason we went into Iraq was the main reason we went into Iraq at the time was we thought he had weapons of mass destruction. It turns out he didn't, but he had the capacity to make weapons of mass destruction. But I also talked about the human suffering in Iraq, and I also talked the need to advance a freedom agenda. And so my answer to your question is that imagine a world in which Saddam Hussein was there, stirring up even more trouble in a part of the world that had so much resentment and so much hatred that people came and killed 3,000 of our citizens. You know, I've heard this theory about, everything was just fine until we arrived, and kind of the stir up the hornet's nest theory. It just doesn't hold water as far as I'm concerned. The terrorists attacked us and killed 3,000 of our citizens before we started the freedom agenda in the Middle East. What did Iraq have to do with what?
The attack on the World Trade Center.
Nothing, except for it's part of, and nobody's ever suggested in this administration that Saddam Hussein ordered the attack. Iraq was the lesson of September 11th is take threats before they fully materialize, Ken. Nobody's ever suggested that the attacks of September the 11th were ordered by Iraq. I have suggested, however, that resentment and the lack of hope create the breeding grounds for terrorists who are willing to use suiciders to kill to achieve an objective. I have made that case. And one way to defeat that, defeat resentment, is with hope.
Okay, the next question is, if you were president, how would you have responded to 9/11?
Well, I would not have invaded Iraq, and I would not have invaded Afghanistan. I would have Under the international doctrine of hot pursuit, if we had evidence that the backers were in that area, we would, with other countries, establish a commando force with language capabilities and sufficient bribes, and very laser-like go after the backers of the attackers. Now, you see, because of our blunderbuss approach, Afghanistan is the #1 narco state in the world, produces about 85% of all the poppies. It's in total chaos. Our puppet government barely controls Kabul. It's all split up in tribal areas which we have to bribe if we can get away with it. We have to bribe to keep some of the tribal leaders on our side, and the Taliban are resurging. So it's not working. And we haven't caught the backers of the attackers, have we? So it's not working. So very, very restricted, internationally approved hot pursuit doctrine is what we should have done with other countries, multilaterally. Yes.
Some of us, including one of the major party candidates for governor of Vermont, have asked for a new investigation of the 9/11 terrorist attacks because we believe that the official investigation was a cover-up and that bin Laden didn't do it. What is your position on a new investigation? What do you think really happened on 9/11?
It's on our website. We want a new 9/11 investigative commission because the first one, right from the beginning, said they're not going to name names or assign responsibility. What kind of investigative commission is that? What are they doing? Just writing a narrative for a popular bestseller, which is what it was? Right from the beginning, it was flawed. No names and no responsibility. So a lot of unanswered questions. People in New York City are going to have an ordinance, a referendum next year to have New York City, which has a big stake in this, have their own investigative commission. And we really have to insist on it. There are too many unanswered questions. You can't simply say it's massive incompetence.